Hey everybody, Chris the old ass retro gamer here. Today I'm going to do a review, and it is of a reproduction that I showed off in one of my earlier videos. It is a Super Nintendo game, originally released for the Super Famicom, and that is Super Back to the Future 2 by Toshiba Mi. I'd already discussed the backstory on this game in a previous video. If you've already seen it, then just skip on ahead. If not, I'm going to go over it again right now. So when I got back into collecting, one of the first things I learned about was Time Walk Games and the reproduction scene, which was something I had no concept of. I'd been out of collecting for so long at that point, I was just completely out of the loop. And when I got back into collecting, I started hearing about reproductions all over the place, and I was kind of curious. I was like, what is this? What are these things? Well, it turns out they're games that we didn't get here in the States that people translated and put onto carts so that we can play them over here. Time Walk Games was the premier place to go to for reproductions. I found their website and I was blown away by the games that they had. They had stuff there that looked so goddamn cool. Pretty much right after I got back into collecting, they decided to close their doors. They had been overwhelmed with orders and they didn't have any more free time. I managed to get 3 games off of them, but there was plenty more that I wanted. One of which was Super Back to the Future 2. And it was probably going to be the next game that I purchased from them. After they closed, a lot of their games started popping up on eBay at super inflated prices. And these weren't cheap to begin with. Some of them ran about $90 on Time Walk's website. And people were selling them for triple that. There was some of the Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past hacks and Metroid hacks that they had on their website were going for about $300. I was looking for Terranigma, which is one of the games that they had available that I really wanted, and that was going for about $300. And I was just not willing to pay that. I was like, oh, I guess these games I'm just never going to have the fortune of playing. Putzing around on eBay one day while I was on my lunch break at work, I found a seller who was selling his own reproductions of games that came complete in box, which was one of the reasons I liked Time Walk as much as I did, because not only did you get the game, which was super high quality, great label on it, although they did tend to repaint all their cartridges, which made no sense. You got a manual that was really great and high quality. You got a box that was super high quality. Sometimes you even got a poster or a map or something with it. I mean, they just went all out when it came to making sure that it felt like an authentic game that you would have bought back in the 80s for the Nintendo or the 90s for the Super Nintendo. But this seller on eBay was selling, I think at that point it was 2 reproductions. It was Super Back to the Future 2, and it was Popful Mail. And not only did you get the game with a cool looking label, but it also came with a box and a manual. So I was ecstatic. I'm like, I could finally get this game! Because we did get Back to the Future games prior to this one coming out, none of them were good. But this one I had seen footage of on YouTube, and it looked fun. It looked like it was actually doing something with the license, and it had something to do with the movie, unlike the games that were made previous to this. So I was excited. Now that I was able to get one for pretty cheaply, mind you, I paid about $50 for this complete, which is around, what retail would have been. But for what I was getting, I was completely happy to pay that price. Because I do believe the one on Time Walk was going for around $75 to $80, so getting $30 off was something I was willing to do. So I purchased this off of that gentleman. It took about 2 weeks to get it because after I ordered it, he had to put the whole thing together. And while the box and the manual aren't exactly the greatest quality I've ever seen, the box just looks really cheaply made, although the manual comes on some really good paper. It does look professional. It does look like one of the manuals you would have gotten back in the day. And it even comes with a password list. You shouldn't say that, no. Don't want to help you out with the cheating. Manual's cool. Box, not so much. It also comes with a poster, which looks really cool from a distance, but up close it looks like it was done on like a home printer. And it is really pixelated. But the cartridge is, an authentic deal. The label is actually really nice. The problem is I put all of my games in box protectors. And this box is just slightly larger than the standard Super Nintendo box. Because the guy who made this used some thicker cardstock, and it just doesn't fit in the box protectors at all. I tried to put this in one, and it wouldn't go in all the way. It got stuck. I ended up having to cut that box protector apart to get it out. Outside of that issue, it looks and it sounds and it plays just like an authentic video game, which is what it is. But how is the game? Let's talk about that. So the game is a side-scrolling action game. It takes place during the events of Back to the Future 2, the movie. You play as Marty McFly, who is on a hoverboard. It is wearing his future garb from the film, and you have to defeat all the different Biffs across all the different time periods from Back to the Future 2 in order to get back the sports almanac, which he has stolen, and changed the present to benefit him. The hoverboard that you are on is also your sole means of attack. There are several different jumps you can do in this game. One is just a standard jump, and other one is if you're moving at the time when you jump, you will do a somersault, and that is how you attack. If you land on an enemy's head while you're doing a somersault, you will kill them. If you do a somersault into them while you are moving, you will kill them. If you are doing the other style of jump, which is like the kickstand jump, you will take damage. You have to be doing the somersault in order to inflict any sort of damage on the enemies. So one button does the somersault, another button is the speed button, which lets you gain momentum, and if you go up an incline, you will launch off of it. All the levels are patterned after moments from the movie. There is the Hill Valley of the Future level, there is the Hill Valley of the Present, which has been corrupted by Biff and the changes that he made. There's the 1955 themed levels. The bosses you fight are all Biff from different time periods. The graphics are pretty decent. They are very cartoony and super deformed. You know, everyone has like a really big head. That works for the game. The backgrounds are pretty decent. Some of them are animated better than others. Some of them are just really bland. Others are pretty cool. The music is nothing but the Back to the Future theme, repeated over and over again, just played at different speeds. And sometimes it's played as happy, sometimes it's played as sad, sometimes it's played as moody and mysterious. It depends on what level you're on. It gets very tiring. You have 3 health points, you can take 3 hits before you are dead. There's also coins that you have to collect in the game. You can collect ones that are worth 5, ones that are worth 1, and you end up spending the coins at these vending machines that you pass up during the levels. Some of them will give you an extra health, some will give you a shield that will protect you from enemies for 1 hit. They're all over the place. If you have the correct amount of coins, you just glide past it and you will take the power up. And that is Super Back to the Future 2. But is the game any good? While the game is head and shoulders above all the other Back to the Future games we have gotten over the years, it is pretty repetitive. You're basically doing the exact same thing every single level. Sometimes the levels feel like they have been repeated completely further on down in the game. In the first level, there is a building you have to climb up through the inside, and you have to do this kind of like zigzag motion to get up to the top. That is repeated, I don't know how many times over the course of the game, and it gets old after about the 3rd time you have to do it because it is a real pain in the ass. The controls are not good. I do not like the way the game is programmed to differentiate between what kind of a jump you're going to get. You have to be moving in order to do the somersault jump. If you're not moving at the exact speed you need to do it, you will do the standard jump, and most of the time you will just land on top of an enemy and take damage. It is like cheap hits. The jumping is also very imprecise. There is no way to gauge if you are going to make a jump or not. In some games you can control your jump, either on the way up or the way down. Here, it's kind of a crapshoot. You never know if you're going to be able to make a jump. You never know if you're jumping to the right place. The game is so zoomed in, you don't really get a good view of the level, which is another big issue. So having the power-ups that give you an extra hit along in the levels is absolutely necessary because you just take nothing but cheap hits. A lot of times I would get through a level just by sheer luck. The level designs can be kind of clever. The level designs can be kind of crappy. Another problem is the music. While it sounds really cool to be getting the Back to the Future main theme played over the game, unlike the other games where there was no music from the movie to be found, you will really hate the main theme by the time you get about an hour into this game because you will have heard it so many times it will drive you a little mental. Why they couldn't come up with original music outside of that, I don't know. But I think they figured that they paid for the rights to use it. We're going to use it as much as we possibly can, get as much bang for the buck. While the levels are extremely difficult, the boss battles are a completely different story. They are a cakewalk. Basically, all you have to do to beat a boss is jump on top of his head and just keep doing the somersault attack over and over again. Keep bouncing off his head, and then you'll keep hitting him until he's dead. Every single boss, including the final boss. And on top of that, the ending of this game just sucks. It is one screen, and it is over. Really? I played through this entire game, put up with all this frustration, and all I get is one little scene. Fuck you, Super Back to the Future 2. You can take those self-lacing shoes and stick them right up your ass. But it's not to say that this game isn't fun. Like I said, it is way better than any of the other Back to the Future games we've gotten before. And while it is frustrating and it is sort of badly designed and the controls are kind of shit, it doesn't mean it's not fun. It does have its charms. It is entertaining. I wasn't hating it while I was playing it. I was kind of pissed off when the game ended because you don't really get an ending. But these are Super Nintendo days. As long as congratulations was spelled correctly, you were lucky you got that. If you are able to locate a copy of this, whether through an emulator or through a reproduction, I recommend picking it up, especially if you're a fan of the Back to the Future movies, because this is the one you want to have in your collection, because this is the only one that feels like it has anything to do with the films. It is fun, it is hard, it will tick you off, but it is definitely worth playing. So my final score for Super Back to the Future 2 is a 3 out of 5. It is definitely worth your time, but there are a bunch of technical flaws that drag it down just a bit. It is entertaining while it lasts, but it is nothing you'll want to go back to over and over again. But as far as Back to the Future games go, this is the best of the bunch. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please subscribe to the channel. The button is right there. Just click it already. So please comment on the video. Have you played Super Back to the Future 2? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? What are your thoughts on it? I want to know. Please share the video on the social medias and all that craziness on the interwebs, and give the video a thumbs up to let me know that you are enjoying yourselves. So until next time, I'm Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, signing off. One thing that I do find kind of amusing is the cinema at the beginning of the game is from the ending of the original Back to the Future, where Doc Brown comes up to Marty and his girlfriend while they're standing on the front lawn and says, "Hey Marty, you gotta come to the future with me." And Marty says, "What? What happens in the future? Do we become assholes or something?" If they left the assholes line in, I would have been so freaking happy. But alas, they took it out. Nintendo's seal of approval. Sometimes you gotta make sacrifices.